Hey everybody, this is IndieGeek, and today I'm taking a look at Mind Path to Thalamus. This is a game from Carlos Coronado, and it is available on Steam for Windows. It is $11.04 for the opening week sale, and it will be $13 after that. And of course, I will have a link in the description to where you can purchase that for yourself. You may be wondering what's going on here. This is not the very beginning of the game. I've played about the first 5 minutes here, just so we could start getting into the kind of traditional gameplay of the game, and sort of skip the first story segment. I do have the game turned down pretty quiet, just so that you will be able to hear me over the narration. Other than that, you're probably wondering what Mind Path to Thalamus is, and that is exactly the question I'm going to answer. Basically, it follows in the line of like first-person narrative puzzle games. So, something like Portal, although this is certainly not a rip-off of Portal. But it does have some Portal-like elements, you could say. So we are clearly blocked there and have to take a different path. Anyways, what will happen is that we'll have this narration that happens and sort of tells the story, but all the while we're going to be solving puzzles in the environment and, viewing various places, trying to solve puzzles, things like that. Alright, so for context, a little bit of what's going on here, at the very beginning of the game, there is a tornado, and our narrator here, who is also us, talks about killing his daughter over and over, and how he shouldn't have brought her there, to where the tornado happened, things like that. So I'm not totally sure what's going on with the story, because I've only played maybe an hour and a half of the game so far. That being said, I can certainly say that I like what I've played so far, and don't worry about your screens at this point. There are some parts that get totally black. Alright, so now you can see that we've got kind of this item to interact with. We don't actually have a lot of methods of interaction. We can basically walk around, we can jump, and we can left click to pick things up. And you may be wondering how long this environment goes on. There are actually invisible walls that prevent you from going too far. So there isn't an endless environment here, right? It's kind of a closed space, I guess, to sort of force you to kind of focus your efforts on this puzzle here. So, this is I'm kind of simulating how my first time playing this went. Tried to figure out how the hell to get in there, and what I found was you could actually leave that guy there, and then everything gets a little funky, but also our path is opened. So that is clearly what we want to do. Anyways, I like about 95% of this game. So I think what I want to do is maybe just get the things I don't like out of the way, so that we can just move on to all the things I do like. The things I don't like, the voice acting. It is, you may have heard a bit of it. It is very, I don't want to offend anyone here, but it sounds amateur. And I don't know if that's on purpose. I don't know if it is maybe amateur, maybe it's just the developer doing it or something along those lines. Maybe it's a developer's friend. But yeah, the voice acting kind of breaks the immersion a lot for me, which is unfortunate because, we've got these really, really beautiful, expansive environments that really kind of pull you into what's going on here. And then we've got sort of this mediocre voice acting that is, it really just kind of breaks your immersion a bit. Other than that, the only other things I really don't like, there isn't a sprint button, which I kind of wish there was, because there is a lot of this walking long paths, things like that. And sometimes there's also some walking back and forth as you're trying to solve a puzzle. It'd be nice to be able to sprint through that section, instead of having to rewalk the same path over and over. I think for one of the puzzles I spent about 15 minutes just walking back and forth, trying to figure out where I was supposed to go. And it was this speed the whole time, which may feel fine for now because we're making progress, but when you're not making progress, it feels pretty slow. What else? I think the only other thing I can say is that the story hasn't really drawn me in, but I'm also nowhere near finishing the story, so I don't really want to say that that's necessarily a negative about the game, because it does feel like the kind of game where you need to maybe finish it for it to truly reveal the whole thing and kind of make sense in the end. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers my negative points. My positive points, I think the rest of the sound design stuff is really, really, really good. There isn't a ton of music, but there's a lot of, like, kind of ambient sounds and stuff like that. That's all really good and really interesting. Kind of, again, just pulls you into this environment. And I think from a visual perspective, I think that's honestly the strongest point of the game. The puzzles here, at least for some points, are not very difficult, or even maybe at times not very interesting. I would even go as far as saying, like, that puzzle, while it may seem interesting, that was not me solving it fast just because it's the second time I've done it. That was me solving it fast because it really was that easy. And I feel like some of what makes the puzzles difficult at times is just the fact that some of them are really obtuse and don't really have any basis for why you should know how to do it. It just kind of expects you to experiment. So I find that maybe the puzzle balance is a little weird for me. And this is not the experience that everyone has had that I've seen online. So, this is now the type of puzzle we're going to be doing for a few minutes. These, how do I get through this? And we've got, platforms that we can see that don't work, and we've got platforms that are invisible that do, things like that. And this kind of puzzle, like I was kind of mentioning, really just feels like trial and error, because as far as I can tell, I couldn't really find how exactly we do this puzzle. I basically just had to try over and over until I found the right path through this, and while I guess that's okay, it just doesn't feel like I've really accomplished anything, I guess, which for a puzzle game I kind of want to feel that aha, I did it moment. And we don't really necessarily get that with this game. So I think, part of it's going to come down to what you're looking for in a puzzle game. If you're okay with just exploring the environment in order to, figure out these puzzles, that's totally fine. If you're looking for something more like Portal, where you've got kind of ground rules laid out for you, and you know all the rules, and you know what you can do and what you can't do in the world, then this is maybe not going to quite live up to what you want. That being said, I do think it is a very good game, if nothing else than for just the atmosphere of the whole thing. It really does make me wish that the voice acting was a little bit better, because the story is pretty interesting, although, like I said, it does feel a bit just disjointed for right now, and the environment is just absolutely breathtaking at every moment. Like you can see here, it almost feels like we're walking around a watercolor painting, it just looks absolutely brilliant. And there are more environments in this as well. This is maybe kind of an unfortunate example a little bit, because I'm only going to be showing off, we did not get everything we need to here. I think there's one more. Yeah, because that is closed off. So there's two more even. So we'll go get those, and then we'll be able to move on. And I'm probably not going to play for too much longer. But yeah, don't take all of the negative things I said too heavily, I guess. While I do think that they're negative things, I don't think that they're so negative that they really impact how good what is here is, if that makes sense. Basically what it comes down to is I think that it's a really neat idea. It's a really beautiful game. There's just like one or two minor annoyances that maybe keep it from being like a really great game. If that makes sense. Basically I just don't want to come off sounding like this is a bad game, because I don't think that at all. I think it's actually a really good game. I think there are just, a couple of those things I mentioned that do kind of cause some issues in my mind as far as how I feel about the game. Yeah, again, kind of these trial and error puzzles, as far as I can tell. I wish that I had been able to find some kind of clue, because that's what I was looking for with a section like this, is there, and I actually spent a good amount of time trying to figure out, like, some of this you can tell because there are like these pillars here that could hold something, but some of it is just very random. I spent maybe 10 minutes on one of these puzzles, one of the easier ones, trying to figure out what the tell is for where the platforms are and where they aren't. And I wasn't able to, which is unfortunate. So it really did just feel like a trial and error. If I am missing something, apologies, but I couldn't find it. But yeah, otherwise I think that this is a really interesting game, and I think a lot of people are going to really get into this. It's not necessarily a game for everyone, because it is, it just does fall into this first-person narrative puzzle game category, which pretty much means, and actually this might be a really great place to end it. So that's kind of our prologue, if you will, to the game. So there you go, Mine Past the Thalamus. Overall I do think it's very good. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be for everyone, because you do have to kind of enjoy these, narrative puzzle games. You do have to enjoy, spending your time redoing things over and over to figure out the answer to the puzzle. But I think if you can get past those things, and if you want to just explore this really beautiful environment, and I promise you it just does stay beautiful, we do end up seeing more and more varied environments, and really every environment in the game is breathtaking. I think it's worth the ride. So I will leave you with that. I do recommend this, especially if you are into, some of the things that I said. And if you don't think that my negatives will be too much of a deterrent for you. But yeah, I think that is where we're going to leave off. So as always, feel free to leave comments. If there's anything you'd like to comment on, subscribe to see more from me every single day. Of course, if you liked the video, please do consider clicking the like button, because that helps me out a lot and I greatly appreciate it. And last of all, of course, do not forget that the link is in the description if you would like to pick this up for yourself. But with that, I thank you very much for checking out this video, and I will see you next time.